Annemarie's biography perfectly describes this book. Annemarie is a New Zealander who collects new best friends wherever she goes. In her 50s, she and her husband Steve packed up the house, rented it out, kissed her family and friends goodbye, and moved to southwest France to work as estate managers for several private families, swapping corporate city life for animal husbandry in French countryside. I would add, reading My French Platter touches all of your emotions while detailing the lows and the highs of Annemarie and Steve's adventures in southwest France. A 5-star read. Hi, I'm Paul from Trending Who, What, Where, and When. Today I will be speaking with the author Annemarie Rawson about her book, My French Platter, A Journey to a Dream Life in France. #1 bestseller in travel 3 times on Amazon since it was published in August 2020. Annemarie will be joining us from Havelock North, Hawke's Bay, New Zealand.
Hi there, I'm talking to you from the top of Tomato Peak here in Havelock North, which is part of the Hawke's Bay region of New Zealand. Right now we're looking down on the Craggy Range vineyard. It has the most beautiful restaurant, wines, and even boutique accommodation where you can stay at a great exorbitant price. It's sitting right on the Tukitook River, and here as you're moving around we can see out to sea even. It's just incredible landscape. Dotted in amongst the hills is a lot of lifestyle housing, lifestyle blocks we call them, and beautiful homes that are able to enjoy this setting. It's just stunning here. I'm Annemarie Rawson and I'm talking to you from the beautiful Tomato Peak here in Havelock North. This is my book, My French Platter, and this is the story of Steve, my husband, and I leaving New Zealand and going to work and live in southwest France. And everything that goes on around us is in this book. It was supposed to be a dream job, but it didn't actually pan out that well. But it was still the most amazing and wonderful experience. And you can read all about it in here and join us on our journey through a dream life in France. Thank you.
You sent us a lot of really good images and good details of where you would take people if they came to visit you in Havelock North, Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. Would you like to tell us about that?
This is a really beautiful area of New Zealand. It's sort of halfway down the North Island. And if you're looking at the map, we're on the right-hand side. It's sort of a little peak that comes out. There's beautiful places here, and it's really the food bowl, we'll call it, of New Zealand, because there's orchards, vineyards, and as a consequence of those vineyards, there's some lovely bars you can go to and taste some delicious wines. And they do craft beer around here too. We're very close to Hastings and Napier, and there's been a lot of pop-up craft beers. So, but one in particular, this place is called Birdwoods, and you can go there for a coffee, lunch, whatever. But it also has a lovely boutique shop attached to it, and you can buy anything for yourself or the house, artworks, and the cafe there leads you out into a garden where there are beautiful sculptures. The owner does, and Zimbabwean, and they go back, well, we're going back pre-COVID to collect sculptures and bring them back. So it's the most gorgeous place to while away a couple of hours. And from there, I would take you out to lunch to a vineyard, because that's what you do here. And you could have a platter lunch, or you could have a full course if you want. Which is, you've got so many to choose from. That we're very lucky here. And after that, I would have to take you for a walk up Tomato Peak to show you the views from up there, and it's just outstanding landscape.
Wow. Okay. Sounds like a full day.
Oh no, we haven't finished.
Oh.
So once we get down from there, we'll go to one of those beautiful wine bars and sample a little wine, and go for an early dinner to Alessandro's. This is just one of the many restaurants here, and it's a proper Italian restaurant. They do fabulous pizza, but of course you've got the whole range of Italian food available to you there and served by Italians.
Well, please tell us about your book, My French Platter.
So how that came about was we traveled to France quite a bit in previous travels, and we'd always, me particularly, had a hankering to go and live there. I don't know why, I just loved the lifestyle and the way of life and the wonderful markets and everything. So we decided to look for a job, which we did, and we managed to get a job as, I'll put in quotes, estate managers for a couple who lived in London, two guys, and we up sticks, went 12,000 miles to this house, which we'd been given photos of, and it was nothing like the photos. So our first foray of working and living in France turned into an awful lot of hard work to scrub and clean to get it ready for any discerning visitors. So that was one awful big blow, but that's what the story is about. Our time there, the people we met, and the beautiful French villages we visited, and our life and journey along the way.
Would you like to select and maybe read a few quotes from your book for us?
I felt completely overwhelmed with what needed doing. I slumped into the nearest chair, holding my head in my hands and fighting back the tears. So what that was about is we'd walked into the main house for the first time, and it was just shocking condition we found it in, and it was nothing, as I said, like the photos we'd been given. And there was just, all I could see was that there was weeks and weeks of work ahead of us, and I had been typical New Zealander, trusting. We're a trusted lot, and very trusting, and it was just nothing like I had imagined. So there was me holding my head in my hands. I was beyond thinking, how on earth are we going to do this? How are we going to get through this? We were just starting to get into it. So this is called, this is chapter 5, and it's called Country Life. I wish you could have seen Steve. He was in his element in his New Zealand stubbies, t-shirt and cap on the ride-on lawnmower. Gabriel, the gardener, had been in and given Steve chapter and verse on the property and the intricacies of the ride-on. He pointed out to him where all the old stumps and stones were throughout the lawned area, and told him he needed to avoid these at all costs or they would wreck the mower. There was Steve careering round the vast back lawn trying to get the grass length under control. I sat outside at the little cafe table enjoying a glass of rosé and watching him. It was a little after 6 p.m. and still so warm. A warning, I thought, of how hot it was going to get during the summer months. There was a frog stuck in the swimming pool in about an inch of scummy water. It was making very loud ribbit noises to great effect in that echo chamber. As soon as I went near, it dived under, but we couldn't get it out no matter how we tried, even with the pool skimming net. The feral cats were starting to get a little braver and kept peeking in our front door, as did the chickens. After observing these feathered creatures and their antics, I'd named them: Maggie Hatcher, Al McPherson, Hilda Ogden, and Adele. Maggie Hatcher was the obvious matriarch and so bossy. She would strut about corralling and clucking at the others if they strayed from the brood. Al McPherson had long legs and beautiful plumage and was forever grooming herself. Poor Hilda Ogden. She was an old hen, very scruffy and always scratching in the dirt, looking for that little elusive gem of something, and she had such a shrill cackle. As for Adele, well, she was gorgeous. Golden feathers, full-breasted, and she could belt out the loudest continuous squawk.
Could you share with us what you learned from your experience that was detailed in My French Platter, what you would do differently now after having this experience?
And I think harking back, Paul, to what I just said about New Zealanders being really trusting. And I'll just say for me, probably really naive. You know, I'm an honest, upfront sort of person, and I just expect that from other people. So I think what I learned about that was make sure you have everything you need in the way of contracts and job descriptions, out in full. Nothing, don't just take verbal for granted and that's what it's going to be, because we arrived in London and got then handed another job, a huge job of having to do an inventory for the whole house. Well, that was every knife and fork, plate and teacup in the house, as well as all the sheets and so forth. So that was another massive job. And I thought everything would be ready for us to walk in and start estate managing. Yeah. So yes, and that was another misnomer. There was no estate management at all. We were not involved in any decisions about what was happening at the house, or so make sure you have absolutely everything that you need to know and fully understand what you're taking on. So that was the learning bit, but please, it did not detract from our love of France and our experience or the wonderful people we met.
You share with us some of your favorite spots that you visited while in France for your book.
So where we were in the Tarn area, it's the Department 86, and the Tarn, or the Tarn-et-Garonne, which it leads into. I really think it's a still unspoiled part of France. It's not overrun with tourists because it's out in the countryside. The nearest big city is Toulouse, and that's sort of 45 minutes from where we were. But you don't have to go far to find, explore a multitude of beautiful villages. One that is of great note is Saint Antonin-Noble-Val, and that was used as the grounding, the place where the 100-foot journey was filmed. I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a wonderful film. And I cried when I saw that film because it took me straight back. St. Antonin has the most beautiful market every Sunday, and people come from all over, beautiful foods and music, and there's linens, and as well as all the little boutiques that are within the village itself. So that is just one of them. Another town close by is Albi. That was only 20-25 minutes from where we were living. It's ALBI, and that has an incredible cathedral there, Saint Cecile, and it's the largest brick cathedral in the world. And walking into it, it's just awe-inspiring. The dome of the cathedral is vivid azure blue, and the frescoes on it are just historic and outstanding, and it's still so vivid looking up at them, and just wonderful. So that's Albi, but you've got these other little villages around. Courts-de-Ciel is another, that's quite a popular tourist hilltop town. Puy-Salcy is beautiful as well, and you just get a sense of peace and like a harmony with the people, the food, the landscape. France is my go-to place. It's just heaven.
Okay. Well, was your ability to speak French and read French, did that help or hinder your experience there?
Me, mine is very basic French.
Okay.
Steve was he'd done what you'd call high school French and college French. So he went to university here and did a 1 year at that as well. And he also did, what do you call them, refresher courses here with French teachers, French speaking teachers, and got him up to speed there. And mine, I just had 1 year of secondary school, and so mine was very rudimentary. But you just smile and be warm and friendly, and the French are blimmin' marvelous. They accept it and help you. And I'm talking in the country. We've been in the cities and it hasn't really been a problem, but I hear other people say that the French are quite rude, and it was never our experience at all. Just wonderful. So I did start French classes, but in the next book, in My French Platter Replenished. You can follow me along in some of that. I never managed to succeed well in learning French. I think I absorbed more than I let on, and I could read it better than I could hear it. There's so many different dialects too, Paul, you know, from area to area.
Was driving there difficult when you took the car to go into town or go places? Was that, I guess,
that was just me being really nervous about the narrow roads from the village roads. Sometimes they were just one car width, you know, just with a little bit of side that you could pull in if you met another car. But generally, on the whole, about the motorway scared the bits out of me, you know, because that's 130 and people are passing you at 160 sometimes. And so it took a while, an adjustment, but I was so thrilled by the time I got in the car and took myself off to the supermarket and felt really independent then.
And after being there for a while, you were both comfortable driving there?
Yeah, no problem at all. No, Steve was totally, it was just me being a bit pathetic.
Okay. What were your favorite foods from this region?
You can never go past the French pastries, can you? The pâtissière is outstanding. That's one thing. But one particular, I always loved confit duck, you know, the canard, confit de canard, and that is beautiful. It just melts in your mouth, and you can just buy that in a tin from the supermarket. Okay. And you know, you just, because it's tinned in a big layer of fat, and so you just scrape off the fat. It's not a problem. Put it under the grill for a little time and to, you know, crisp up the skin, and then bung it in the oven for 10 or 15 minutes because it's all ready to go. You're just really warming it through. Or do it the other way around. Put it in the oven first and then under the griller. Or do you call it a broiler?
Broiler. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's just to crispy up and brown the skin. So that's one thing. And we fell in love with cassoulet. And that is, about 3 meats. You've got duck, chicken. I don't think we use pork. But there's beans and, it's just the most unctuous, delicious. You were never going to get me eating snails or frog's legs, I'm afraid. But the food is really good. The market food is outstanding as well, what you can buy. And all the cheese, you couldn't, I don't think you could eat your way through the number of French cheeses that are available. One of our French neighbours, who we got really good friends with in the next place we went to, we went for dinner there, and he, one of them did cassoulet, and then the next neighbour, he did choucroute. But that's a specialty of the Alsace region, which is right on the border of Germany. So France and Germany, their Alsace is right up there. But they've been invaded so many times, back and forth, France. That is really a German dish, so, you know, choucroute. And there's sauerkraut, potatoes, big slabs of pork belly, big slabs of meat in it. I couldn't eat it. I just picked at it really. It was just too heavy and stodgy for me. But you know, other people just absolutely love it.
So, you had good things to say about the wines in France too. It sounds like you had good success. You didn't seem to find any bad experiences with the wine.
You can have some pretty rough reds, and there was it's called a cave. You know, it looks like the word cave. A cave in France is like a wine cellar you go to. And honestly, Paul, in the wall they have hoses like you would fill your car up with from the petrol tank. They had hoses coming out of the walls of various red wines, and you would take along your 2 or 5 gallon plastic container, and you could just fill from the wall whichever one you wanted, and it was like €1.60 a litre. You know, it was just so unbelievably cheap, but they were quite a bit rough for me. But the French do superb wines in the Burgundy area. The Bordeaux areas in particular are outstanding. And of course, I'm a rosé girl through and through. I love all the French rosés. They're beautiful, nice and dry.
I've never seen that with the hoses like that. But that would be
No,
experiencing. Never.
I was blown away. I walked
Yeah.
out and oh God, I couldn't believe they were doing them up.
It makes sense that they would do that, but I've just never seen any place do something like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, just like those big, we call them like a jerry can, a metal jerry can that you would carry petrol in. Well, these are just as equivalent size, like in a big plastic one, though. Yeah, and you just dispense it into smaller things at home, I'm sure, when you got home.
My French Platter has been #1 bestseller in the French travel 3 times on Amazon since it was published in August 2020. Please tell us about this situation.
I don't know how that happened, Paul, to be very honest with you. But so many people have a great love of France, particularly Americans. A lot of Americans and English have a great love for France. And I think with COVID having struck, there was a great sense of armchair travel. You know, people wanted to escape their everyday lives of being locked down or whatever. But, and that I sort of feel like our time away there took people out into the countryside, and it was also a different, experience. It wasn't your normal, people up sticks and moved to France to buy a house and renovate it. It wasn't one of those. I mean, I think it was unusual too, because I don't know, I know of one other New Zealander that has gone the 12,000 miles to live and work there, and especially in the same capacity that we did to be estate managers, and run a place.
Well, you have a high percentage. You have 4.3 out of 5 with 340 reviews, which is quite an accomplishment. That's a lot of reviews, a lot of good reviews.
Yeah, no, I am absolutely thrilled to bits. What started out to be a book for family and friends, it just escalated. I just sort of wanted also to get our story out there because it wasn't the usual story, and because it was not a warning to other people. I never thought about it like that, but I guess I was always sort of so surprised by what went on. And the lack of thought, really. If it had been me, if it had been my business, it would have been just totally different. But and I did come back to New Zealand after that, and we had quite a large home, and I set up my own little B&B in the bottom half where our son's bedrooms and sitting room, and they had a whole big area for themselves in their late teens, and I enjoyed that for a little while, but in the end we decided to sell the house. But people were pretty complimentary about that, so I was really pleased I did it.
You probably have a lot of experience having been in France, knowing what expectations are. You probably know what to expect when people come.
Yeah, we made some lovely friends with the people that came to stay too, you know, that we're still in touch with, and they were just visitors to the property. They were just renting it. But that was always a lovely thing that we made our mark, so to speak.
Will we see My French Platter as a movie? And if we do so, who would you want to play you, and who would play your husband, Steve? I know you like this question.
Great. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Well, a friend of mine asked me that, and she said, well, you could do that yourself, Annemarie. What are you going on about? So, but, you know, I have a great love of Meryl Streep, who I think she is the most versatile woman in American film. I think she's incredible, the role she's played. So I think she would do it justice really well. And I've just seen Stanley Tucci in a movie, and I thought he would be really good. He's another great flexible actor as well. But, you know, I'm just throwing those out there. I have no idea, really. There'll be hundreds of people that would play it well. Well, who did I tell you was the English one? Oh, yes, I adore Kristen Scott Thomas. Do you know who she is, Paul?
No, I don't. That person I don't know.
She's a brilliant English actress, but she's speaks fluent French as well. She's she's a wonderful actress. She's done an awful lot. And of course, you've had to have heard of Colin Firth.
You mentioned him. Yes, that I'm familiar with him.
He's wonderful too. So that's me and Steve on the English version.
Okay. Well, if you're too busy to do it, then they'd be available.
They would dismiss it out of hand, but wouldn't it be gorgeous doing all that French countryside? I can't remember the American one actress. There was a great film. Oh God, I've forgotten it now, but it would make a beautiful film. It really would.
I think it would too. Plus, it has the different things going on that would make it, the drama going on that would make it interesting.
Yeah, there was no embellishment. You got what went on. So all the situations were true, but we moved the location and so forth. Yeah.
Will you tell us about your upcoming book, My French Platter, Replenished?
With what went on, I had a very full platter, so to speak, in the first book. So I thought a good title for it was To Replenish That Platter with good things. And so the next book is where we move on to, it tells you about where we went at the end of the book to see this new property. We'd been offered a job. And My French Platter is all about going to live there and working for another English couple, husband and wife, who turned out to be absolutely wonderful, just wonderful. And it's about the house and us working there and life in the villages and our relationships with the French neighbours. That fulfilled the dream, Paul, of what I had wanted from the first job when we left New Zealand, earlier on. So, that's what it's about, and all the little goings on that happen there and the people that come to the house. And
on Amazon for sale later this year.
Yes, it will be. It's with the editor. My bit's done. It's her bit now, and she'll come back with, take this out. What about this? How about adding this or whatever? So we'll be a couple of months away at least before that's done. She's flat out right now with her with other books as well. So a couple of months, 3 months maybe at tops, I hope.
Would you share with us any advice you would have for new writers?
I've never written before in my life. Only blogs home to people when we've been on travels. And that's, a dear friend said, you've got to put this into a story. You write really well. Everyday reader can easily read it. So my advice, though, would be get a brilliant editor. Find yourself a very good editor, someone who comes highly recommended. And proofread. Proofreading is everything. An editor does that, but you also need other sharp eyes on it, fresh eyes all the time. So luckily she has what they call beta readers. So she puts it out to 6 other people. They come back. But the editor is the best thing. My book, I was self-published, but self-published with the help of Ant Press. That's A-N-T, Ant Press. And they were absolutely brilliant all the way from me being such a naive newbie with no experience of writing. They took me right through the process with My French Platter and, right up to loading it on Amazon. And then there was guidance for afterwards as well, where I should be looking for marketing, all of that sort of thing. So they're absolutely fabulous. Ant Press, which is owned by Victoria Tweed. She's a very well-known author as well herself. She writes wonderful books.
Okay, so then she would have the experience to know what your requirements
Totally,
are.
yeah.
Personally, I would know that. Okay.
Yeah, very experienced in the publishing, yeah. I think that is where you will find the true essence of the French people and of France. And I would highly recommend that you do get outside of those cities and the the cafe where you sit with the waiter, almost tapping his fingers when you can't speak or ask for the correct thing. Get out into the country and go to the food markets. You know, it's just fabulous. You can sit in your cafe there and watch the everyday life unfold around you.
And you also got a car and everything else, so you were more flexible where you could go.
Oh, yeah.
I know for us, we could take a train, but that would be about the extent of what we were able to do.
Yeah, but even getting out of Paris and going down, you know, to Champagne and that sort of thing. The train, I love travel by train, Paul. Highly recommend it through Europe. That's, you know, that's what we've done, and we've done it all through the UK as well. Fantastic. You don't have to worry about airports and, you know, the hassle. I get really stressed going through customs and you're pulling everything out, and it's not like that. You board a train and you're in, and you don't have to be there 2 hours before. It's a wonderful way to see the world, and both of you can enjoy the landscape. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about My French Platter.